The glittering facade of the British monarchy has always been defined by its grand spectacles, where ancient traditions meet the curious eyes of the modern public. Among these, few events capture the essence of aristocratic prestige, quite like Royal Ascot, an annual festival of racing, where the intersection of power, privilege, and pageantry is put on full display for the world to see. For generations, the image of horse-drawn carriages gliding smoothly down the velvet green turf of the Berkshire racecourse has signaled a timeless continuity, a visual reassurance that the hierarchy of the old world remains steady. The immaculate tailoring, the sculptural hats, and the polite waves from the royal enclosure create a picture-perfect tableau of an institution detached from the mundane struggles of everyday life. Yet, beneath this carefully polished surface of high society and traditional pageantry, a quiet and deeply intense drama is unfolding behind the massive stone walls of the palaces. This year, as the summer sun warms the historic grounds, the atmosphere inside the royal circle is charged with an unprecedented level of tension, and the traditional guest list is becoming a fierce ideological battleground. As you watch these headlines dominate the daily press and listen to the conflicting opinions of seasoned commentators, a profound question begins to emerge about the very future of this ancient institution. Before we delve into the dark clouds gathering over this summer's most anticipated social gathering, take a quick moment to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an exclusive look behind the scenes of the world's most talked about dynasties. The central debate that is currently dividing royal observers and causing sleepless nights for palace officials centers on visibility, symbolism, and the heavy price of family association. For years, the public has been accustomed to seeing Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie occupying a prominent space within these grand family rituals, embodying the youthful glamour of the extended royal family. Their presence in the traditional carriage procession was once viewed as a harmless nod to family continuity, a minor detail in a grand production designed to celebrate the monarchy's expansive reach. However, the modern world is changing rapidly, and the lens through which the public views these displays of hereditary privilege has grown sharper and far more critical. The ongoing institutional fallout surrounding their father, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, has left a permanent shadow that refuses to dissipate, creating a complex dilemma for the current leadership of the firm. While neither princess has ever been accused of any personal wrongdoing, the uncompromising rules of modern public relations mean that proximity to controversy can be just as damaging as the controversy itself. Senior palace officials are acutely aware that every single person who steps into a royal carriage or stands in the royal box is a symbol, and in the current climate, symbols are scrutinized like never before. This has led to intense, whispered discussions behind closed doors regarding whether it is appropriate for the sisters to participate in the highly visible procession this summer. To some, excluding them feels like an unnecessarily harsh punishment for the sins of their parents, a cruel public exile of two women who have tried to build independent, productive lives. To others, their inclusion is seen as an unacceptable tone-deaf display that insults the hard-pressed British taxpayer and signals that the monarchy is unwilling to truly distance itself from past scandals. The debate is no longer just about who gets to ride in a horse-drawn carriage. It has transformed into a high-stakes referendum on the transparency, accountability, and survival of the monarchy in a cynical modern age. As we prepare to explore the shocking financial revelations that have added fuel to this already raging fire, the question remains whether the palace will choose family loyalty or institutional survival. The growing public debate over who deserves a place in the royal carriage procession is not merely a question of social etiquette or family sentimentality. It is deeply rooted in a growing frustration regarding the massive financial reality of the contemporary monarchy. For decades, the general public was content to admire the grand lifestyle of the extended royal family from a distance, viewing the palaces and the lavish wardrobes as necessary components of a global British brand. But as economic pressures continue to squeeze ordinary households across the nation, the lens through which these privileges are viewed has become intensely critical. Critics and financial analysts have begun to shine a harsh, unforgiving spotlight on the vast incomes, the sprawling properties, and the seemingly endless jet-set lifestyles maintained by members of the family who perform no official public duties. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have found themselves at the very center of this financial scrutiny, as journalists and investigators uncover the intricate network of wealth that funds their private existences. Despite not being working royals who carry out official engagements on behalf of the crown, the sisters have long enjoyed a level of material comfort and global mobility that rivals that of the highest-ranking state officials. This stark contrast between their private citizen status and their ultra-luxury lifestyles has created an undercurrent of resentment that palace strategists are finding increasingly difficult to manage. The tension is no longer confined to the pages of tabloid newspapers or grumblings of anti-monarchist groups. It has reached the inner sanctum of the royal family itself, causing profound rifts between those who wish to maintain the traditional status quo and those who advocate for radical reform. Reports from inside the palace walls indicate that Prince William has reached a breaking point regarding the behavior and the public perception of his extended family members. Sources close to the future king suggest that his friends are openly speaking about his growing impatience with what he perceives as an outdated and unsustainable model of royal privilege. William is said to be acutely aware that the survival of the monarchy depends entirely on its ability to prove its value to a skeptical, hard-pressed population that is tired of subsidizing the lifestyles of peripheral figures. The sight of relatives enjoying lavish, multi-million-pound lifestyles while ordinary citizens struggle to meet basic living costs is seen by the future monarch as a ticking time bomb for the institution. This internal clash of philosophies has created an atmosphere of unprecedented hostility behind the scenes, transforming routine family gatherings into cold, calculated standoffs where every gesture is analyzed for political meaning. The focus of much of this public and private anger centers on the extraordinary concept of grace-and-favour apartments, a historic system that allows non-working royals to occupy prime real estate within the nation's most historic palaces entirely free of charge or at heavily subsidized rates. Currently, 11 prominent members of the royal family continue to live in these luxurious, historic properties, insulated from the harsh realities of the modern housing market that the rest of the population must navigate. These apartments, located within grand complexes like Kensington Palace and Windsor Great Park, require immense amounts of public funds to maintain, securing them with round-the-clock police protection and regular structural renovations. To the average citizen, the existence of these grace-and-favour residences represents the ultimate symbol of an out-of-touch elite that takes its hereditary privileges for granted. The fact that the daughters of the disgraced Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor continue to have access to these historic spaces and the immense wealth associated with them is viewed by many as a direct insult to the public conscience. This sentiment is echoed by prominent social commentators and historians who argue that the vast majority of the population still supports the idea of a constitutional monarchy, but only if that monarchy is willing to radically reform itself. The demand for a streamlined, modernized institution is growing louder by the day, with experts warning that the palace must act decisively before public patience evaporates entirely. The current structure, which allows a massive web of cousins, aunts, and uncles to benefit from the prestige and financial security of the crown without offering any tangible service in return, is increasingly seen as entirely indefensible. The upcoming racing festival at Ascot has therefore become a critical flashpoint, a physical manifestation of this deeper systemic conflict, where the old world of unearned luxury collides directly with the modern demands for transparency and fiscal responsibility. As the date of the festival approaches, the palace is caught in a paralyzing dilemma, caught between the desire to protect its own family members from public humiliation and the urgent necessity of protecting the institution from devastating reputational damage. The decision of whether to allow Beatrice and Eugenie to participate in the grand procession will serve as a definitive indicator of which faction is winning the battle for the future of the monarchy. If they are permitted to ride in the carriages, it will be seen as a victory for the traditionalists, who believe the family's internal hierarchy should remain immune to public opinion. If they are excluded, it will signal a monumental shift toward the lean, strictly controlled monarchy that Prince William and his allies are determined to build, regardless of the personal cost to his relatives. To fully understand why this localized dispute over horse-drawn carriages and public appearances carries such monumental weight, one must examine the broader historical landscape of the modern British monarchy and the specific biographies of those caught in its centre. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie were born into an era of unprecedented media expansion, growing up as the granddaughters of Queen Elizabeth II during a time when the royal family was transitioning from a revered, distant institution into a global reality television phenomenon. As the daughters of Andrew, Duke of York, and Sarah Ferguson, their early lives were defined by a confusing mixture of ultimate royal status and constant public controversy. Unlike their cousins, Prince William and Prince Harry, who were directly in the line of succession and groomed for lives of intense state service, the York princesses were placed in a challenging peripheral position. They were expected to maintain the dignity and appearance of royal princesses, attending high-profile events and occupying historic palace residences. Yet they were concurrently told to forge their own independent paths in the private sector. This ambiguous status has led to years of public confusion and building resentment regarding their true roles and financial arrangements. Princess Beatrice, who studied history and history of ideas at Goldsmiths, University of London, eventually established a career in the corporate world, working in venture capital and strategic partnerships. Her marriage to the wealthy Italian property developer Edoardo Mappelli Mozzi further elevated her financial independence, creating a life that exists largely outside the financial machinery of the British state. Similarly, Princess Eugenie pursued a career in the international art world, studying English literature and history of art before securing a high-ranking director position at a prominent contemporary art gallery in London. Her marriage to Jack Brooksbank, a wine merchant and brand ambassador, likewise solidified her place within a wealthy, cosmopolitan elite that moves seamlessly between luxury residences in London and exclusive resorts abroad. Yet, despite their independent professional pursuits, the sisters have never been able to completely sever the golden threads that tie them to the public purse and the scandals of their father. Their extensive security arrangements, which have historically cost taxpayers millions of pounds, and their continued occupancy of luxury grace-and-favour properties like Royal Lodge and Ivy Cottage, mean that their private successes are permanently overshadowed by questions of unearned privilege. The core of the matter, and the reason why this issue has reached a boiling point ahead of the upcoming racing festival, is that the public can no longer separate the daughters from the father. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's disastrous public withdrawal from official duties following catastrophic allegations and legal settlements left a permanent stain on his branch of the family tree. In the eyes of an increasingly cynical public, any attempt to elevate his children within grand state pageants is interpreted as a backdoor attempt to rehabilitate the disgraced Duke himself, signaling that the palace believes it can simply wait out public anger before returning to business as usual. This is precisely why the decision regarding the Royal Ascot carriage procession carries such profound consequences for the survival of the crown. The Festival of Ascot is not merely a sports event. It is an annual showcase of the monarchy's social hierarchy, a living theatre piece where the monarch displays the inner circle of the dynasty to the world. To include Beatrice and Eugenie in this intimate ritual is to signal to the British public, many of whom are facing severe economic realities, that family loyalty and aristocratic solidarity rank higher than public accountability. Conversely, to banish them from the procession is to enact a brutal public severing of ties that will cause irreparable damage to the internal dynamics of the family, potentially alienating a network of loyal aristocrats who view such actions as a betrayal of traditional values. This high-stakes dilemma is occurring at a time when the institution is uniquely vulnerable, navigating transition and facing intense calls for modernization from both internal reformers and external critics. Senior journalists and palace editors have noted that the current King and Prince William are operating under a strict philosophy of a streamlined monarchy, a lean machine that reduces the number of working royals to an absolute minimum to justify its costs to the modern taxpayer. In this new, hyper-efficient model of monarchy, there is simply no room for peripheral figures who enjoy the benefits of royal status without carrying out the exhausting daily grind of charity visits, state dinners, and public diplomacy. The outcome of this week's silent palace conflict will ultimately dictate the trajectory of the institution for the next generation. It will reveal whether the modern British monarchy possesses the courage